No one has ever shown that human emissions of carbon dioxide drive global warming.
We have a massive power, and it's the power to say no.
They put all these words on these flyers and it means nothing. It's garbage.
We're all going to die!
Doctors are gaslighting patients.
If you keep silent, then this is what's going to happen. And they'll make us silent.
I would rather paper cut my eyelids than have anything to do with their lives.
I love that saying.
We are one people, one flag, one Australia.
Hey everyone, welcome to the XCandidates. My name is Stephen Tripp, joined by Adam Zahra. Now, it's been a big week for us, Adam. A lot of different things. Firstly, last week with Kevin Lockery was a big, interesting episode. A lot of topics that he brought up there that were very interesting. But we've also had a rebranding this week. We're no longer the EX candidates. We're now the X candidates. How do you feel about that?
I think it's extraordinary. No, I think it's actually really good. I like the new look, and you worked really hard on that logo design, and I think it's I think it brings us more into the times. You know, X as in not X of something anymore, but X as in we don't know what's happening next. You know, like where do we go from here? So it's kind of like, you know, that X factor thing that's happening. So, you know, welcome to the new and improved branded X candidates, and
it's just a
let's see
different
where
vibe.
it takes us. Yeah. Yeah.
Different vibe. You want to let everyone know why we called ourselves the X candidates in the beginning?
To be honest with you, I came up with the name the X candidates, right? And it was because I had just recently watched a movie with Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves called Point Break, and they were called the X presidents, and I'm kind of like, that's pretty bloody cool. And I'm like, why not just call ourselves the X candidates? And then everyone's like, nah. And then we did it anyway because we wanted to get started, and it kind of stuck. And then it's really hard once you have that branding to kind of shake it, isn't it? Like just like trying to shave. I want to shave the beard off, but you know that's kind of like my brand. And what happens if I shave the beard off? You'll see No Chin Adam. No one recognized me. So I got to kind of keep it now. I'm stuck there.
That's
But
right.
just about last episode, you know, that with Kevin Lockery. Lockery. Well, I knew that was going to happen. I am still right fascinated by the catalytic converter that he's talking about. So again, it's a topic that comes up. People are like, what's this catalytic converter? And it's about turning rubbish into actual usable fuel, liquid fuel. And I'm kind of like, guess what that's going to do? In my head, I'm just like, that's like problem solved. It's like we should be working on getting licenses or whatever it is, licensing or whatever, to bring the rubbish in from the ocean, use this special manifold or catalytic converter to turn it into usable fuel. And then we beat two problems with one stone by reducing the pollution problem, because I think all of us will agree here that pollution is an issue, not carbon dioxide, right? So the government's focused on the wrong thing. Okay, carbon dioxide is, you know, about the life gas of the earth, and it ensures life of everything. What we want to do is not reduce that. What we want to do is get the pollution out of the ocean, so that the fish and our life source can actually be a better environment. And then we can also fuel our cars and fuel our trucks and bring the prices of the cost of living down, because fuel will be cheaper. And all we're doing is turning rubbish into something that's usable. So yeah, that was awesome. I'm going to research that more, and you know, that really, I like. Sorry, Rebecca, I know you're sitting there nodding patiently, but we'll get to you in a second. I'm interested in obviously like climate change, and that was a strong topic of mine. Like I was very, you know, into that, and you know, and I'm a results person, and I think, you know, and I like to hear results, and I don't like people banging on and beating the same drum, you know, over and over again. It's a waste of time. It's a waste of life, you know. So a lot of people just, you know, sit there and chant the same thing, but and no results come from it. You know, we know the windmills don't work. We know the solar panels aren't really working. We know that that's going to create a bigger problem, i.e. pollution in the future. Just have a look at the Blade Cemetery in Texas that was all around the internet not long ago. It's not going to work. It's driving prices up. It's hurting us. It's hurting everyone. But there are other alternatives that, for some reason, the government just will not listen to. So that catalytic converter was very, very interesting. And if Kevin's taught me anything, it was that there are far more probably better user-friendly and better for the environment options than what we're using now. So that was my big spiel. Sorry about that, guys. But that catalytic converter was awesome.
Well, I don't want to keep a very, very special guest too long, but I just want to bring up quickly, Catherine bought us 10 coffees this week on Buy Me a Coffee. So thank you very much, Catherine. It always blows my mind when people want to support us and go away from their, give up their hard-earned money just to show their appreciation for us. But if you are interested, you can head to Buy Me a Coffee. Just look for the XCandidates, You'll find the link in the chat if you want to contribute to Adam and I. It's just something there if you choose, and we're very appreciative of anyone that does it. I mean, as I said, it just blows my mind that anyone wants to part with their hard-earned money to say thank you to Adam and I. So we really do love when that happens. But on tonight's episode, we have a returning guest. She joined us way back in episode 28. So if you want to check that one out, go back to the archives and find that one. But she is the founder of Fair Business Australia. Rebecca Lloyd, how are you tonight?
I'm always well, gentlemen. I've really enjoyed hearing about your catalytic converter and your Buy My Coffee. I feel like I've been living under a rock for many months on the business mountain doing what I'm doing in business. So it's nice to be getting caught up to date with what's going on in the ex-candidates world. So thank you for having me on the show.
We're always welcome on here, Rebecca.
Thank you. That's very kind. It's nice to be amongst friends. Which in the political arena, I think that's really unusual, the fact that we were able to, as minor candidates last year, really start to form friendships no matter what party we were in. I thought that was really, I hate to use the word, an unprecedented move amongst political candidates. And I really, I'm looking forward to seeing more of that in the future, where people that have results, people that have really great ideas are willing to cross-collaborate, cross the floor for ideas, and politics can be far more about ego and control.
Yeah.
Well, it does happen, believe it or not. So maybe we're testament to that. But last time we had you on, the big issue that we were talking about was the director ID, which was compelling companies to sign up to this director ID app and everything that came along with that. Do you have an update of where things are with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Director ID came in a flurry last year. For those of you who don't know the backstory, it was delivered not from the government, it was delivered through people's accountants, and the accountants just got an email saying, oh, by the way, this is now a law and you have to do it, otherwise you're going to get a massive fine. And so that was hurried on to us, and a lot of us, in fact, over 700,000 of us were like, oh, I don't really like the thought of this. We don't know whether we want to give you our really personal information, and we don't know why we're going to get a fine if we don't do that. And so last year, over 3,000 directors that I'm aware of, out of the 700,000 that did not yet apply, out of the 2.4 million company directors that are in Australia. And as we all know, I'll give you some stats, 98%, in fact, I think it's 98.5% of employment in Australia is through small to medium enterprises. And so for us, 3,000 that I spoke to over that time, some of them were self-managed super funds, a lot of them were company directors, very concerned about what we saw to be, again, an overreach of government and prying into our private lives without really good cause. We stood last year and said, no, we don't really want to comply with that. And so many of us wrote a letter saying that we were looking into legal advice around that. And now 12 months later, we are all, I've already had my letter. Many of us are getting our letters saying, okay, you've had your extension. It's now time to apply. If you don't apply, you're going to get a fine. And so now we are back to seemingly square one, where we are looking into more legal advice. I have done quite a bit of reading on it. And yes, it is a law. Yes, there is a big fine. And yes, there are still many directors that have not applied. Some are going a more, dare I say, traditional legal way. Other people are going common law way, but I think the result is the same either way, in that people on both sides of the fence are still saying, no, we don't want to do this. And so that's where we're at now. We're just getting more legal advice and have put together a legal pack for those who want to go down the more traditional legal route of opposition. And we'll see what happens from there.
Rebecca, what possible advantage does the director ID offer? Let's not, instead of poo-pooing it, because we know it's poo-pooed, right? We know it's crap, because why should I have all of our information in one centralized spot? So most of our viewers won't agree with that. But what would be an advantage? What advantage does the ATO have, or the government have, by issuing a director ID to every director?
So I'll pull you up, first of all, on your use of the word ATO, or the acronym ATO, because according to our research, we're still not actually sure where that directive is coming from, because some things are saying ATO, some things are saying ASIC.
Yep.
And as far as we're aware, those two things should be two separate governmental departments, and yet it seems that there's kind of some crossover there. Some people are getting letters from one mailing address, some people are getting letters from another mailing address, and so there does seem to be some discombobulation there from what we are seeing from ourselves. But what would be the advantage to complying with this directive? The idea behind it, according to the government, is that it would help us to overcome Ponzi schemes. So let's say that Mr. Jones sets up a company, does a lot of naughty things, and then shuts down that company and immediately goes and sets up another company and does naughty things again. But because he's in a different company structure, it's very hard to trace Mr. Jones all around the country whilst he rips people off. And so if Mr. Jones was forced to give over all of his personal information, he would be more easily traced. And then we could, in theory, shut down the Ponzi schemes. But according to the research that you don't have to look too far to get the research, less than 1% of all complaints to ASIC are ever even investigated. And ASIC in itself is also under some pretty heavy scrutiny from the government for seemingly, allegedly doing some quite naughty things themselves. And so for us that feel like that's my business, that's not your business, let me run my business, I pay my tax, I pay my GST, I'm already doing everything to help fund the government's tax-paying dollars, and now you want a whole bunch of information. Well, that would be fine if, A, we could prove that you would keep our information safe. In actual fact, according to my research, there has been 5 or 6 fairly significant governmental breaches over the last few years. You can see that in the director info pack if you want to jump on the site to download it. And there's also investigation of ASIC itself. So, people don't trust ASIC. The people that I'm speaking to don't trust ASIC. So that would be the reason. Let's overcome Ponzi schemes. But it feels to us like the rot runs quite deep anyway, and we don't trust you to keep our information safe anyway. So why would I hand over all my information? So it just doesn't feel right. It was very rushed. They didn't have the administrative support to even roll it out properly when people were trying to even comply and get a director ID. The website kept crashing. They couldn't get through on the phone lines. And so it does seem to me that it was rolled out very, very hastily. And I think they're still playing catch up now. So we'll see.
But thank God for business owners like yourself and others that are standing up and pushing back against this, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't want to have to go along with this, but they've just complied. They've just had to go along with it because they don't want to pay the fine.
Well, yes, and it is a significant fine. It's a lot of money, and there is the threat of potential jail time as well. And again, it's fear. It's fear. And I anytime something that comes at me square between the eyes that is, you better do this or else, I ask questions about that. As a business owner, I'm always looking for things to improve my company, to improve my employees, to improve my own life. But if I'm forced to do something on pain of, and we saw how that rolled out with COVID, you have to do this or you won't be able to go into a cafe. Yeah. You have to do this or we're going to fine you for not forcing your employees to get the jab. And now look at what's happening. And so I think anything that is rolled out incredibly hastily from the government, that doesn't have good administrative support, that has a lot of questions right from the start, I am going to ask questions. And as someone who has not a significant following, like apparently I'm a micro influencer, if you have to coin the phrase, but I don't want to be pushing things out to people if it's wrong. And I feel like the government should be held to those same standards. Like, where was your research, folks? Where was your research around COVID? Where's your research around the director ID? I mean, we've already seen Alex Antic talking about them rolling out smart cities in South Australia. And let's just go on the conspiracy theory, which, you know, wait 6 months and it happens to become then a news story and everybody knew that was the case. And, oh, well, let's just not talk about it anymore. Let's say the conspiracy theory is the truth and that they're moving us into a smart city, Chinese style social credit system. Well, if 2.4 million company directors comply, who's next? It's going to be all of the small business owners, the sole traders. Then who's it going to be? It's going to be all of the employees. It's going to be all of the governmental workers. And so I think it's probably a very smart thing to do to start it out with 2.4 million and just take a litmus test and see who's going to apply and who's not going to apply. And we've seen, you know, a little under half. So it's just very disappointing.
Well, I don't feel that most of the people anymore would believe that smart cities are a conspiracy theory, because let's face it, I know that state government is pushing densification around all like train stations and stuff like that. So every suburb has their trains. Well, it might be a little bit different. I'm not sure what your train system's like up in Queensland, but down here, in New South Wales, got a pretty substantial network. You know, like a lot of suburbs have train stations, and the state government is forcing the hand of council to approve densification. I've questioned council about that as well. Like, why are we even doing it? We've got plenty of space. We should be able to just build houses. And then, you know, oh, well, you know, densification doesn't really, you know, if we were to build houses, it's going to be the same number of people and blah, blah, blah. And we haven't got the, you know, and we talk about infrastructure and all those kind of things aren't ready for densification anyway. But my thing was, you're putting a lot of people in a small area. When has that ever been good for any city or any, you know, it always, you know, it always leads to, you know, mess, crime, you know, just, it's just not a pleasant, friendly environment anymore. But it's an easy way to control large groups of people. It's almost like, what do you call it? Like a battery farming in essence, you know, everyone's on top of each other. And that's it, you know, and they're rolling out cameras and they're rolling out special light globes now where they have input ports. So light globes on street lights. I found this one out yesterday, actually. So they're putting special light globes into street lights, and then they're apparently, I haven't researched it yet, I've just heard about it, but apparently they have downloading ports. So at nighttime, like a contractor can go around and actually download the information that the light globe or camera in the light globes actually received or recorded. So, you know, there's a lot of people talking about these smart cities and what they're going to do. And we've seen the rollout of 15-minute cities in England and all those kind of things. So why do people want to keep calling conspiracy theory? It baffles me. We do it as sarcastically, you know, conspiracy theory, because that just so people kind of people take us seriously. But fact of the matter is that they're definitely moving that way. There's council plans, there's state government plans. It's all in action, and they're doing it.
Well, not to mention that you spoke at the start of the show, Adam, about pollution, and that the government is really, really into stopping carbon dioxide, which does come from pollution. And so we all know that cities are hotspots for pollution. So do you want less pollution or don't you? I mean, there's plenty of opportunities out there to move people along the coastline. We have a massive country. I mean, if you could put mini ports in everywhere, you could have really great infrastructure every 15 kilometres up the coast, which would cut down on traffic, which would cut down on cars, which would cut down on deaths on the road. It would cut down on the cost of food because trucks could drive on, save fuel, go up the coast, have a little rest whilst the ship is sailing, and then drive back on and drive in. So, but the people that blocked that was the Greens, saying that it wasn't good for the environment. But they're happy to have a railroad all the way up the east coast, which will require constant maintenance. I mean, we're girt by sea, so why not have a shipping system? That's bizarre. It's bizarre to me, and that's the issue, gentlemen. It's an issue of a lack of integrity. Is you say one thing, but then you do this over here, and I'm thinking, do you really want that or don't you? So, I mean, were you really wanting to keep us safe, or were you wanting to control us? Are you really wanting to stop Ponzi schemes, or are you just wanting to collect a whole bunch more data because control is of the essence?
That's right.
So I'll always stand up for the
And how many people get affected by? I thought mass media and mainstream media is meant to call that out. So if you hire a builder to build your house, and you give him 20 grand to start, or 50 grand, or whatever it is, and then he runs with the money. Well, you used to call a current affair, and the current affair would hunt him down, track him down, put his face and name all over the mainstream media, and then that person would basically be shamed out of business anyway. How many Ponzi schemes are there? Are the Australian people that's due? I think what we should be focusing on is all those international phone calls. Like, oh, hey, you've lost your. All right, you buy something from Amazon, and you get 30 emails saying you need to confirm your details. Why is our information going out to whoever the hell?
Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah. The answer, I think, Adam, is to have local dollars in local pockets, local communities, make local people in charge of themselves. There's 3 layers of government. There needn't be. It's because we've all been asleep at the wheel, and we've allowed there to become 3 layers of government, and we should have stood up a lot sooner, but we didn't. But we're standing up now, and so that's okay. But I really do believe that as we start to talk over the fence again and start to become community minded again, that things like Ponzi schemes will become a thing of the past, because we've got social media. We can set up our own hotlines. We can set up our own, did you hear about such and such? We can police ourselves very, very readily. We don't need a governmental body to do it for us. And I really do feel like the next 5-6 years of Australia is going to be the dawning of the brightest future ever. I am so confident that Australia is moving into a golden age, and that 2030 is going to be an absolute celebration of a very different kind of great reset. And the people are woken up now to the 2 years that we had. Some of us were already awake, and kudos to you guys. Me, I wasn't. I started waking up when I saw Trumpy in power, and I was like, why is Trumpy running for president? What's going on here? What? He became the president. What is happening? And so I started paying attention. And then when COVID came out, I was like, what? And I think there was a lot of people that were just like, what? And now our whats all together can band together and make Australia great again. And we will. Absolutely. Sorry to use the Trump phrase there. It just came out, but we will. No, it'll be awesome.
I hope you're right. I hope we are going towards a very positive period in this country, because we've just gone through a very dark period for a lot of people. A lot of businesses out there went bust, and a lot of people lost their jobs, and people have been injured by certain injections and things like that. But today we saw Annastacia Palaszczuk resign in Queensland. Now you're up in Queensland. How does this affect you, or how do you feel about this being up there, especially after her reign as Premier?
Reign. I love how you use that word. It feels very similar to me to what happened with Jacinta Ardern, that she all of a sudden resigned after her work was done. That's how it feels to me. That's totally my opinion. And I haven't spoken to Annastacia, so I don't really know what goes on behind closed doors. But I don't believe that the plan for governmental overreach will change simply because Annastacia is gone. And people might be throwing darts at a dartboard with her face on it, and now like, oh, well, good, she's gone, and now we don't have to worry anymore. No, we still need to be vigilant. We still need to stand. We still need to put local dollars back in local pockets. And as I've said for the last 2.5 years, the reason why COVID happened to the degree that it did was because of money, because whoever controls the dollar controls the population. And we were very, very unfortunately made well aware of the fact that we aren't actually as in control of our finances as we think we are. The fear of losing one's job, the fear of losing one's house if one has a mortgage, the fear of losing your business if you don't force your employees to get stuff done. And, the government, they're indemnified against anything that crops up in the next 10 to 20 years. What are we going to do if a whole bunch of employees start suing business owners? Then what's going to happen? And as always, it's the taxpayers that wear the brunt of things. It's the middle class that wear the brunt of things. So I think that Annastasia's work is done. I think that she will go on to, from what I've been told, very green pastures. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. And I think that the agenda will continue to move on with another more fresh-faced, that people kind of, oh, well, let's give this new chap a go or this new woman a go, and we'll see. But
well, whoever it is, sorry to cut you off, whoever it is has got a 6 months free run. So it's just,
Well, I mean, that's like saying that Biden has got a 6 months free run, doesn't it? I don't think anyone would say that Biden's actually making any decisions. I mean, that's, again, my opinion, but I believe that the decisions are made long before they're announced from a lectern by the Premier. That's
so we know you're a musical person and, an artist and all that kind of stuff as well from the last time we spoke to you. When you heard that Palaszczuk resigned, did you go, ding dong, the witch is dead, the witch is dead, the wicked witch? Because I did, because that's what I my life is lyrics to songs. And that was the first thing that came into my head.
Oh, my goodness. Look, it just feels a lot like what's happened in New Zealand. That's all I'll say. And anything that I say is an opinion right now.
Yeah.
But the fact of the matter is that Australia is not a happy country right now. Australia is struggling. People are living in tents. Businesses are not yet recovered. Businesses are scared that this is going to happen again. I'm pretty confident that it will happen again, which is why I've been quiet for the last 12 months, building things in the background so that I can have enough support in place for business owners to be a centralised place of information, communication, and standing together for what is best for ourselves and our families. And at the end of the day, this is about what's discussed around the Australian dinner table. And yes, it has been a dark couple of years, but it was dark before then. We just didn't know about it. It's just the tide went out and all of a sudden everything was revealed. We didn't know about all the things that have been going on for decades before then. And now that we know about it, now it's our responsibility to very much do something about it and to stand for what is right so that our children and our children's children can know that in the greatest time to ever be alive, we Australians, we 40-somethings, did something right and stood no matter what the cost. And that's what we're doing right now on this Zoom. That's what we're doing. That's what lots of other business owners are doing. That's what everybody's doing when they stand up and say, no, I'm not okay with that. I'm not going to comply with that.
Yeah, I think, go on, Stephen.
Well, I think it's very important to look to the future. And as you said, you hope that it's a bright future. It's one of the things that grabs me is what's happening with the young people, because they're growing up. They might have not grown up in more fortunate times that we did. I always look back at the 90s and think of how great they are. But a lot of these kids have grown up with social media and they've grown up in a completely different environment that we did. And I don't think we all always are capable of being able to realize where they're getting their information from, what stresses they're under through social media and things like that, and how they are shaped through their teaching in schools. And from all accounts, you hear the amount of indoctrination that is going on in the schools, and it sounds terrible. And we've spoken, Adam and I have had young girls on this show who are in either high school or early university, and they tell us about how, especially in the universities, they're getting all this Marxist doctrine coming through, and if they want to stand up as a Christian conservative, they can't hold true to their own values because they'll get marked down on things like gender fluidity studies and stuff like that. So for me, that's a real concern, looking at the youth, because the youth is where we're going in the next 10, 20, 30 years in this country. So that's why I want to bring up this recent research out of the IPA, the Institute of Public Affairs. It was done by Brianna McKee. She's their research fellow and national manager of Generation Liberty, which is their youth division. And they've surveyed a whole bunch of 16 to 25-year-olds, asked them a whole bunch of questions on different issues, and we're going to go through them now. We might spend a little bit of time on this because I think it is very interesting and important to talk about this, and it does cover a lot of different issues. So it's called The Future of Australia, and the first question here is the future hopes and aspirations. And the question is, do you think your generation will be better off, worse off, or about the same as your parents' generation? And it's clear that the majority, 61 to 67% of them think they're going to be worse off. Do you just said that you think that the future is bright, but unfortunately for our youth, they think they're headed down a dark path.
Well, I would ask you why they think that is, and you've just answered it in the lead up to showing that survey, is that the messaging that they're getting on social media and in school and in university and from all their peers and from the mainstream media is all negative. And so, of course, you're going to believe that if that's what you are fed or that's what you're engaging in. I mean, we don't need to go into the effects that too much or any screen time has on the brain. And it's not good for mental health anyway to be on the screen, no matter what you're watching all day long. My answer to your particular point about academia getting marked down, Jordan Peterson is facing that right now, that he's facing re-education, and he's already said that he will broadcast that far and wide as long as he has to. But he has just shown up in London, I'm sure you're both aware, and has formed the ARC organisation. I don't remember what that acronym means, apologies. But he is standing up, and he's an academic. There are many other academics that are standing up, that when the young people do move through, it's up to myself and other business owners to provide the resources for these young people with great ideas and all the energy in the world to be able to move those ideas to fruition. There's nothing more frustrating than a young person with great ideas and the lack of support to roll those great ideas out. So, okay, sure, let's deal with the housing issue. How do you do that? You move people further abroad, further around Australia, using mini ports. The answer's already there. We've got the internet so people can work remotely. The answer's already there. You've got your fuel so we can service that financially. So the answer's already there. The answers are all there, but we have to start the messaging getting through to the young people. And the family unit has been under attack for a long time now, and fatherlessness is and continues to be a huge reason as to why young people are running amok, because they have a lack of identity. They don't know who they are. They are who social media tells them they are, which is filters and followers, and that is not something to build a life on. And I all of a sudden, I'm now in the generation of, I would have to class myself as middle-aged, and it's a shock because I just don't know where the time went. I'm looking at myself in the mirror going, oh my goodness, I'm getting older, but now I have just that little bit of extra wisdom, and it's up to me to go and plow through and make enough of a difference so that I can provide these young people with the resources and stand up enough so that young people have someone to follow and say, oh, well, Rebecca's doing all right for herself. She's in business and she's outspoken and she's got plenty of people that don't like her and she manages. So maybe I could just go and do that. Maybe I could just go and be in business instead of being an employee. So there's always a way forward. We just need to be louder about it and more clever about it and provide the resources for it. That's our duty now as people who are over 40, is to pave the way so that the next generation can stand on our shoulders and not have to go through finding themselves for the first 20 years of their life and then making a bunch of mistakes and then sitting on a psych couch for the next 10 years, dealing with their childhood and dealing with their mistakes. And all of a sudden you wake up and you're 40 and you go, oh my gosh, what have I done with my time? So that's the answer to that, in my opinion.
I feel like I think kids need to harden up a bit, hey? I just feel like that they've just, Everyone's so about emotions and how you're feeling and all this kind of stuff. And that's okay to have those emotions and feeling. We all actually have them. But how do you deal with them? Like, do you let it destroy your life? Or do you just get on with it? You know what I mean? Like, it's I don't understand why, you know, when I take my kids, I go to school meetings and stuff like that, and it's always about, you know, making sure they're feeling safe and comfortable and, you know, at ease and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, man, we never had any of that at school. We never had like air conditioning. We never had any of that, right? It was all just, you know, we had a 45-degree day. They turned the fan on. You might get an ice block, and that was it. And it's deal with it, right? So, and it was like, dead set, deal with it, but we're here to learn. You know, now one goes, well, you know, I feel uncomfortable with that, and then it's a big thing. And then I feel uncomfortable. Mate, no one, I've got to be honest with you. I'm going to put it out here. No one gives a shit about your feelings. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit about your feelings. I don't give a shit about your feelings. Deal with it. And, you know, and I just feel that's the way, because no one ever gave a shit about my feelings. And I just kind of like think, well, you know, that's right. If you don't want to work for somebody, work for yourself. It's as simple as that. And anyone can do it. And you don't have to be a genius. Find what you like, learn about it, and then go start and do it. And then call Rebecca Lloyd and get onto the infrastructure that she has to get your business out there, because you will need somebody that understands how to use like internet and social media and how to use it the best way for you.
Yeah, I think you make a good point, Adam. What do you think about that, Stephen?
Well, I'll keep moving to this next one. This one's really interesting. And I do care about your feelings, Adam. So,
oh, thank you.
But this one's no surprise to me, except the last bit, which I think is really interesting. It says, "When do you think you'll be able to afford to purchase your own home?" And now, overwhelmingly, you know, a lot of the respondents are saying, you know, 33% are saying 0 to 10 years, 35% are saying 11 to 20 years. 17% are saying 21 to 30 years, and you know, some of them are saying never. But the figure down the bottom, it says, "I don't want to own my own home." Only 1% of respondents agreed with that. So this saying that's going around, "You own nothing and be happy," well, for the youth, they're not agreeing with that, and I find that there's a lot of hope in that. They're not going along with this ideology of not owning anything and just being renters or whatever it might be. They have that aspiration to own a home one day.
I think it's really important to talk about gratification delay. And being a business owner, I've had to do that again and again and again, to just put the work in and hope that it will work out well on the other side, and you get your disappointments and you fall over and you start again. And again, that's an issue with social media, is it's instant gratification. And our young people are not taught to save money. And why would you save money when the dollar is at risk anyway? But hard work is always going to have its place in the world. Great ideas are always going to have their place in the world. And I really do believe that as us, the older generation, if we are willing to listen and get into communication with the young people, then we can start to cross-pollinate. Similarly, though, the young people need to be willing to understand that not everything can be handed to them on a platter, that they will need to work hard, that they will need to have delay of gratification. And you've got to look at a lot of houses that people first bought back in the 70s and the 80s. I mean, when we bought our first house after nearly going into a homeless shelter because things were so bad in my family, we were wearing secondhand clothes and we never went hungry because my mum was really good at cobbling things together. But I was in the shower one day and all the tiles fell off the walls and cut me, and that was just the way it was. And it was just, oh, well, she'll be right. It's a reno job. Let's renovate. And it was a terrible home. It was hot. It was cold. It was everything bad. It was weatherboard. It was horrible. But that was our house. My wall was a sheet that would just pinned up with thumbtacks along the ceiling. It's just the way it was. And I think, will you own your first home that's a $1.2 million house in the next 5 years? Maybe not. But you will be able to own something if you start putting some money aside and go and see a financial planner and get some wisdom So it's messaging, and it's managing expectations, and it's delayed gratification.
Yeah.
Well, it's not easy owning a home. There's a lot of hard work that goes into it. Obviously, the younger generation they do have their backs against the wall in owning a home. I don't think I'll ever own a house. We're in a unit, but it's going to be very hard to someday get to owning a house. But that's not going to stop me. I'll try, but the government's certainly not doing anything to make that easier, and the economy is not going in that certain way. But it's good to see that that young people do have that aspiration. They still have that hope to one day own property, and it's ingrained in them. It's something that transcends all generations. I don't think there has been a generation that said, "Oh no, I don't need to own a property," and we're getting told that the younger generations are just happy to rent. Well, this information, these statistics prove that that's not the case. Yeah, but just to move on, this is something that probably
1 second, Stephen. Do your Schwab voice.
My Schwab voice. That was your one.
You will own nothing. You will own nothing, and you will be happy. Come on, you have to do one. Do your best James Bond supervillain.
You were the one that always used to do that. So
come on, Rebecca, you do one. Come on, you can do it.
I was not prepared for that.
You will own nothing.
I can't.
You will own nothing, and you will be happy.
No, well, that's the other thing we used to say. Klaus Schwab. Mr. Schwab.
Well, the IPA have shown that what he's saying is BS, that everyone wants to own a goddamn house, and everyone should be able to own their damn house and have their own little piece of the pie. And I think that's a really inspiring graph that you put up there, Stephen, because the younger people will eventually turn around and say, hey, I've been busting my butt for 20 years to try and save for this damn house, and I haven't got one yet. Why is that? And they will question, and they will expect to get one in the end. And if they're not getting it, then they'll question, and then they will take up the baton and start fighting like what we fight for.
Yeah.
Only if we can put control of the dollar back into local businesses, because apart from, grabbing stuff out of the ground, whether that be mining or crops, the only way money is ever made is through business. We're the only group of people that make money. We create with great ideas, and then we transport here and we put there and we move things around. And as we put the control of money back into local people's pockets, then you'll see a change. Because rather than going to a big four bank, you would go to a local business owner and say, I need a micro loan for XYZ so that I can go and start creating money because I've got a big dream to buy a house. Rather than going, well, the government should do this and the government should do that. The government is a very, very, very slow turning ship. It's going to take a long time to change anything in government. Yes, I'm looking to go to politics again. Of course I am, but I'm under no illusion that you get in and things change in 3 weeks' time. No. So the way to change things is at local level, with local dollars in local pockets, local employees dealing with local business owners, dealing with local charities, dealing with local places of worship, local people doing things for local people. And forget the government. Just do it yourselves. That's the way forward for Australia.
And with your focus on business, you might be interested in this next one. It says, would you like to start your own business one day? Well, 65% of the respondents said yes. That's 2/3 of young Australians harbouring ambitions to own a business one day. How do you feel about that?
I think that's really exciting because it shows that people are dreaming. No one dreams about being an employee for the rest of their life. They dream about what being an employee can get them, but they don't dream about being an employee. People have dreams, and dreams equal business, because business is just great ideas that are exchanged for a currency, whatever that currency may be. And I believe that money eventually will be totally irrelevant in our society, and we will not measure on who's got the most money. It will be who has the happiest population, and we'll measure our GDP or whatever it is. We will measure it on who's happiest, who's well, who's healthy, who's educated, who's doing wonderful things for each other. And I'm really excited for the future of Australia with that many small business minded people. I think that's really awesome.
Yeah, it's great. It is great. And I'm a small business owner myself. And you know what? It gives you the freedom to control your own calendar. You know, like you control your own calendar, you work really hard. But you're right. We do make money, and we do create wealth for the country because we're prepared to sacrifice. So for the weeks that you don't make money, then the weeks that you make money or double it. You know what I mean? So there's a big peak and valley kind of way of cash flow, and that's another thing that I'm sure that you can help with and provide probably advice on, or something like, you would be able to put people in contact with, but with somebody who can, because what happens is that's the hardest thing about business is to get your cash flow to try and smooth out a little bit where you can eat every week. Because sometimes when I first started, shopping was baked beans and bread, and like and I'm a bit more careful now because I've got like a lot of children. But when I was by myself, man, you can go for a day without eating. It's okay. If you have to, you will. So that's that's my 2 cents on business. But we're starting to get a few comments flow through, and we've had one here because we are live. So we've had Elizabeth say hi, folks. So hi, Elizabeth. And then we've got Graham has said, if home ownership was easy, then everyone would have one. Nothing in life is easy, yet aspiring through achievement is everything.
Yeah, good comment.
I do agree with some of that. I think what's happening at the moment is that people are sacrificing and busting their butt to do what's necessary to get a house. And I think that it's still a little bit unachievable at the moment. And I think interaction or some sort of intervention does need to happen, or something does need to change where, you could save almost, you could be on, I don't know, you could save half your pay every week for 20 years and still not be able to afford a deposit. So there is, and I agree with what you said as well, Rebecca, that, you can't aspire to go and buy your first home as a $1.2 million house, especially like where I live. They're all, $1 million, 900,000 plus. But, you can find that diamond in the rough. So you have to have your expectation has to meet your means. And then, then you can aspire to achieve, right? And then hopefully work your way up to the dream home. So that's Graham there. And then we've got another one here from Richard, good old Richard Storch. How you going, mate? So this one might be a little bit more of a loaded question. So, Rebecca, how do you see a rationalisation of the 3 levels of government happening or manifesting?
I love that question, Richard, and thank you for asking it. I believe that as local communities start to look after their own and start to really pay attention to what happens, that councils will become full of people who genuinely want to represent the interests of their local neighbours, their local friends, their local family. And then we will see a ripple effect from council to state and state to federal. As I said, we're a long way off changing things on a massive scale in government. But we can start with council, and that means that people that are that way inclined should step up and should go for government and should get out there and should pound the pavement and should knock on doors and say, I want to represent you. I want to support you. I want to stand for you. Will you help me? And you said before, Adam, about cash flow being an issue. I see a future of communities where cash flow is no longer an issue, where things are done on a handshake again, where things are done with joint venture partnerships. So I need this, you've got that. Can we work together? How can we make this work? And we will get back to local dollars in local pockets. So the issue is that we see ourselves as governed by people who are our superiors and our masters, and that should never be the case with government. They are supposed to be and always have been public servants. You look at the language that's used even around governmental bodies and governmental people, the honourable this, the great that. I was embarrassed when I was at Anzac Day and you had all these people with medals standing around that had seen all sorts of terrible things on the battlefield, but we were talking about the honourable this and the honourable that standing up to give a speech. It's all wrong. It's all wrong. They are not our superiors. They are our public servants. And when I get into politics, when I get into power, it's going to be to represent what is best for my local community, what is best for my state, what is best for my nation. And I believe that we are going to see such a wave of really humble, community-driven, family-driven people come into governmental organisations, that little by little the tide will turn. And again, Australia has a bright future. Just go and ask some of the young people out there that are looking to run for politics, and you'll believe me.
Well, you're exactly right, but get a load of this next one, right? It says, if you had to choose, would you rather have a small government providing fewer services with low taxes, or a larger government providing more services with high taxes? Now, 56% of the respondents said we want the smaller government, but 44% said they want large government with more taxes and more services. That, I mean, what are they thinking? But there is a silver lining. That 44% has come down from 59% in 2016. So the younger people are waking up to what high, I guess they've just come through the COVID period. So they've seen what big government means. How do you feel about that? Would you rather see big government and more services and high taxes, or the smaller government and fewer services?
I would like to see self-governing. I would like to see us put local dollars in local pockets and look after local communities. I would like to see that when young people need something, rather than going to a governmental organisation or going to the university to get some sort of loan, that they go to a local business owner. I would like to see mentorship. I would like to see the different age groups actually start to have a conversation again. I have so few young people in my life simply because I don't move in those circles. They don't understand me. I don't understand them. And they're doomed to repeat the mistakes that we all made when we were that age, simply because we're not having those conversations, because no one ever listens to their parents. You need someone that's around 10 years older than you to be your mentor for that time. So that is very encouraging to me, that young people are on the increase of wanting smaller government. But the only way you're going to get smaller government is if you have an increase of self-governing, which is responsibility for oneself, responsibility for one's community, responsibility for one's family, responsibility to put money into where it's due. And taxes, it's not great, because a lot of taxpayer money is wasted on its way through to getting, everyone likes a little piece of the pie, and then there's only a tiny sliver left for where it should be going. I'd like to see businesses, instead of paying, let's say, $10,000 in tax, they only pay $2,000 in tax, and pay $8,000 to a local charity where they can say, what are you doing with that money? I've given you $4,000 for XYZ. Have you done XYZ? And business owners are great at KPIs. Business owners are great at accountability. Business owners are great at going, okay, well, you said this, have you done it? And that's the way we get self-governing and smaller governments.
This is for the 44%. This is for the 44% who voted for more government and more taxes. You will own nothing and you will be happy. Bring on the communism, because that's what more government will be, is communism. Okay? Communism is not good, people.
And nothing that government does ever works anyway. What's the point?
I think there would be less need for charity if we took a bit of Rebecca's advice there and made small business pay less tax. Okay? Because then they would be able to employ more people, and people would then be able to look after themselves better.
Well, there's a white paper out by Dave Hodgson, who is a billionaire, who gets asked to actually scrutinise slide decks before people go to economic summits. Like, the biggest economic people in the world contact this man. He's been asked to advise on small business policy at the White House. He lives on the sunny coast. He's absolutely amazing. And his white paper states that if every small business owner in Australia hired one person for just one day, we would completely eradicate unemployment. Completely. Wow. And so you see the ripple effects of that. When small business owners start to recognise that they are actually the most powerful group of people, because they have a vested interest in attaining the goals that they go to, when small business owners start to recognise that they are the cogs that turn the nation, that they are the ones that make the money, that they are the ones that employ all the people, that they are the ones that pay the public servants that have unfortunately lorded it over us because of bureaucracy, then we will see a change in Australia, when the small business owners band together and start to move to some central goals. still having autonomy, still being the king of their own hill, because everybody wants to have their own hill to be a king of, but looking after their local pockets, looking after their local economies, looking after their local charities. It's right around the corner.
I'm going to skip ahead because we're running low on time. This one's another interesting one. Now, you'd think that the younger generation, like we see them marching in the streets about climate change and all these different things. But this question is, out of the following, what do you believe the government should prioritise? Please rank in the order from highest to lowest priority. Now, lowering the cost of living came in at 42%. Housing or rental affordability, 18%. Improving mental health, 9%. Reducing emissions, 9%, and access to a job creation was 6%. So maybe, just maybe, this obsession with climate change isn't as prevalent on young people's minds as what we're told.
I think it's always going to be very easy to be obsessed about something if you're not responsible for paying your way in the world. And that is unfortunate that as young people, we have great ideas and great enthusiasm and great levels of frustration at the older generation that don't seem to listen. But what they don't understand is that once you get a little bit older and you start to pay your own way in the world, the dollar starts to be your master. And that's why cost of living is so important, because if you're on the hamster wheel just to make ends meet, just to make sure the bank doesn't repossess your home, you don't frankly care about emissions. You don't frankly care about HECS debts. You don't care about anything because you're trying to pay your way. So you're not looking to provide for the next generation because you're stuck just trying to provide for the people sitting around your dinner table every night. And so again, as we start to put local dollars back in local pockets and come up with local solutions for local communities, that young people can, instead of going and campaigning to a governmental body that has so many layers of bureaucracy that you're never going to get anywhere, go to a local business owner and say, I'm worried about climate change. I want to plant 300 trees in our local area. Can you imagine if every single school went to a local business owner and said, we want $3,000 to buy 300 trees, to plant 300 trees in our local area? Boom. You'd have trees all over Australia, and that would really, really impact carbon dioxide if that was your biggest issue. But the cost of living, if we could overcome, when we overcome greed and self-centeredness in this country, which is the banks putting up interest rates, government making stupid decisions, so many layers of unnecessary bureaucracy, and people doing things from an ego-driven point of view, business owners ripping off people on purpose because they're not good people. When we overcome greed and self-centeredness, that's when the cost of living will start to come down, because people will make decisions based on what is best for my local community, not what is best for me having as much money as possible when I die, because you can't take it with you anyway.
That's right.
Yeah. You can get a good coffin there.
Now,
well, look, on that, just quickly, I've actually been very, very, very encouraged to be able to spearhead a marketing campaign for a project that's coming out of the sunny coast, where they just protested to the council people who decided to spend $1.2 million on redoing the council chambers when people are sleeping in tents on the beach. We're not talking about drug addicted people that choose to sleep in tents. We're talking about people that honestly couldn't afford the rent, are still going off to work every day, but sleeping in tents of a nighttime because they just don't have a home. And yet they spent $1.2 million on council chambers. And so the people of the sunny coast are actually coming up with a really, really wonderful scheme to be able to look after their local community. I'll be revealing it very, very shortly. And that is going to send shockwaves of wonderful across the country. It's going to be awesome. And it does have something to do with coffee.
Good, because government have no idea what the cost of living pressures are at the moment. They got obviously no clue, or they just don't care, which either way, like how can they invest in council chambers when people are, as you said, struggling just to get by and they're working? You'd think at least if you have a job, you should be able to scrape by, but people are just finding it that too hard.
I agree with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, they should just put the those stupid projects that they want to do, like, you know, rebuild, like in Campbelltown, rebuild art centers and rebuild council chambers and all this kind of crap, right? Why don't they put that into a kitty and offset that against council rates. So guess what? People can say, well, I know it doesn't sound like much, right? Because say you pay, I don't know, $1,200 a year in council rates, and you only have to pay $1,100 a year in council rates. Well, that's $100 in your pocket. And that's been offset because we decided not to spend money on some BS crap that we don't need, right? And we're giving back to the people. And that's what, if I was in council, that's what I would be fighting for. I'd be saying, hey, we don't need to spend $74 million on a stupid arts centre that no one ever goes to, okay? And it's been pretty new and pretty good anyway. I understand we have to maintain it, but guess what? Take that $74 million, offset it against taxpayer or ratepayers' rates, and let's bring it down a percent. You know, that's $74 million in a local council will go a long way to reducing council rates.
Absolutely. And so the answer to that is that for the people who want to run for council, the local business owners who have great influence in local communities by way of families and connections and employees, they need to support council people who want to stand. That's the thing. As long as we always refer to the government as them and they, and well, they're doing this and they're doing that. No, if I was this, if I was, no, when I am in council, I will do X, Y, Z. Will you support me? Yes, I will. When I am in federal government, this is what I'm going to do. Will you support me? Because we've just sat back for too long. And now's the time to get into the driver's seat and change the direction of this country. And we will do it when we stand together. It's already started. It's been starting for the last 2 years. We're just getting momentum, like a big train that takes a long time to get going. But once we get going, we will be unstoppable.
Yeah, correct. Now, this is the last one because we'll finish up with this one. But as the only female with us tonight, I want to get your perspective on this. It says, speech which is claimed to have hurt someone's feelings should be censored. Agree or disagree? Now, the most people disagreed with this, but on the male category, 29% agreed and 71% disagreed. But on the female category, 43% agreed, 57% disagreed. So it's more of a 50-50, whereas the male is 70-30. So the males are far more likely to oppose censorship than women. How do you feel about that?
Oppose or support?
Oppose. So men are more likely to oppose censorship than the women. The women are more split 50-50. The men overwhelmingly 70% want censorship stopped. Is that a more female trait, would you say, or is that not fair?
I could hazard a guess that females are more communicative anyway, and I would statistically say that females are more heart feelings motivated, and if someone says something that hurts your feelings, then that could be quite injurious and not as easy to get over as a compartmentalized black and white man. But I am a pretty alpha male type woman, so if someone hurts my feelings, then I just have to get over it, because people say nasty stuff about me all the time, and I've cried on a live to make people stop and they didn't stop, and then I've gone in fighting and they didn't stop. And so look, haters gonna hate, but censorship of any kind is dangerous, particularly when it comes to freedom of speech. If someone's been a pork chop, then they need to be told to be quiet, and they need to be reprimanded, and they need to be fired, or whatever needs to go on there. But, you're talking about now the government's just put out that they're trying to say, well, what the government says is incorrect is then going to be censored. What the government said is injurious is going to be censored. Like that is very dangerous territory right there. So I'm fundamentally against censorship, even because if you shut everything down, how are you supposed to have a conversation with someone who doesn't think the same way as you? And if you stop communication in a country, then what's the point? What's the absolute point? What, you're going to stop having footy matches just in case someone loses? You're going to stop all sport just in case someone's feelings get hurt because they didn't kick a goal? Are you going to let someone re-kick a goal every single time until they get the goal in? Like, where do you draw the line there?
Wait. I'll take a mulligan on that one. That's really good. No, yeah. That's a good analogy. I like that. Wait. We're going to stop and let them have another go because they stuffed it? That's right. They shouldn't. You get one shot at it and that's it, you know? With the, well, especially in the sports category, I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's important.
Yeah. I mean, look, you need to come from a place of kindness. You need to come from a place of genuinely wanting to make a better place in the world. Of course, if you come from there, look, against love, there is no law. But if you're being a pork chop, get out. Like, stop being an idiot. Fine. But that doesn't mean that we should shut people down simply because they may have possibly said, because as we've seen, speech has been absolutely weaponized over the last few years. And all of a sudden, a word that was not offensive is now offensive. So, I mean, I called someone an Aboriginal the other day and they were really offended. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? No, we prefer to call ourselves Indigenous. And I was like,
we
First Nations. I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. I didn't know that.
This is a huge thing on this show. We spoke to an Aboriginal elder multiple times, Kerry White, and she said to us, call us Aboriginal. We're not Indigenous. Indigenous is anything of this land. It could be a plant. It could be an animal. It could be anything. If you're born here, then you're Indigenous. We are Aboriginal Australians. Don't take that away from us. And she said, First Nations is a Canadian term. It's not even Australian. So
see, there you go.
I wouldn't feel bad about it. I mean,
I wouldn't feel bad about that.
Yeah. You can't just keep making rules on speech. That's very problematic. That's dangerous. It's just like Animal Farm, where no one is allowed to sleep on a bed. And then it was, well, you're not just not allowed to sleep on a bed if it's got sheets on it. And then all of a sudden the horse gets sent off to the glue factory and everybody cried. Like if we read books like that in school again, we'd have a very different young population. We really would.
Just on the topic of misinformation on speech and how it's been weaponized and changed. I do recommend everyone should go and watch on, and I don't like promoting Netflix or any of that stuff either, but I'm going to promote them at this time because it was pretty interesting. So I watched the other day the roasting of Donald Trump, and from what I gathered, it was filmed. He wasn't president. He hadn't been president yet, and I think it was filmed in 2000 and maybe 11 or something like that, or a bit earlier. It was when he was doing The Apprentice and all that kind of stuff. Have a look at the jokes that they were saying back then. If you want to see how language has changed and how everyone's shifted, if you want to see the Marxism and how it's changed, just have a look at that. Take that snippet or watch that show and see the jokes. And I'm telling you what, if you like cringeworthy, wait till you see The Situation from Jersey Shore try to roast Donald Trump. It was shocking. But you watch that and see how they were speaking to each other and how they were talking. I'm sitting here going, I can't believe they're even playing this. I can't. It's blowing my mind because like it was wild. So I recommend everybody should just at least check that out because you really see how far I think we've gone in a bad direction. I mean, the jokes were derogatory and uncouth and all that kind of stuff, but who cares? It was comedy. You know what I mean? But if you have a look at what you wouldn't even think about the things that they were saying back then now. So that was a really good gauge of how it's changed, and that's why I'm not for that Misinformation and Disinformation Act, and I'm not for that's my phone, and I'm not for what you're talking about the way they've weaponized and changed words and censoring words. All that's got to stop.
Absolutely.
Now, Rebecca, for everyone that's listened tonight and they've thought, oh well, this lady's really talking my language as a business owner. And they head to your website, fairbusinessaustralia.com.au. What can they hope to find there? What do you provide on your website?
So we'll help you to future-proof your business through ensuring that you can show up strong online, get your leads, help you to nurture those leads, and help you to prepare for a sale. So imagine a staff member that never calls in sick. Imagine a staff member that never drops the ball. That's a customer relationship management system, a CRM, which is if you don't have one, you definitely need one. Imagine Leads on Demand. That's a great Google Ads campaign. We've got that as well. We do obviously have legal advice, general legal advice, and we'll be rolling out a lot of networking as well so that you can start to connect with one another. So I love that you showed the website. Thank you. I'm about to revamp it to get even more defined on what it is that we provide at Fair Business Australia. But leads, nurturing those leads, ensuring that your emails and your texts always go out, ensuring that your website is always on point, and ensuring that you can become an industry leader, a community leader, someone that can provide employment, someone that has enough finances that you can be outside of business mentoring the young people. You can be outside of business standing alongside someone that wants to run for council. You can be really, really instrumental in changing your local community when you have sufficient cash flow and sufficient time and lowest levels of stress to be able to do that. So that's what we help you with at Fair Business Australia.
That's awesome. All right. Well, this is the final segment of the X-Candidates, and we didn't have this the last time you were on, so this is a new segment. We're going to hit you with this. It's called Build Your Own Fantasy Government. Now, the idea is to pick 5 or 6 people. It could be current politicians, former politicians, experts in a certain field, maybe business owners, whoever you may choose to head up the next Parliament of Australia. Rebecca, you're in control. Who would you choose?
Richard Branson, because he's awesome, and look what he's done with Virgin. Definitely Jordan Peterson, because why not? Because he's just amazing. Minister of Health, I'd probably have Robert McCulloch, Robert Malone, Peter McCulloch, maybe even Dr. William Bay for standing up for his country and paying a great price for that. He would be a great health minister. Defence would obviously be Heston Russell. I thoroughly enjoy that man. We're friends and I supported his first ever veteran games. Dave Hodgson would be Minister for Finance because he has made all of his money through helping people and ensuring that everybody prospers out of every business deal. Myself, I'd be the head of marketing, which means I'd be the mouthpiece because I've always got something to say. And yeah, it would just be small business owners and people that really know what they're on about and people that love their country, people that love their families. And just want to live for legacy.
Well, I think we should
definitely try pretty good list, I reckon.
Better than what's in there now. But thank you so much for coming back on the show, Rebecca. We really like hearing what you have to say. If people want to follow you on social media or elsewhere, where can they find you?
Fair Business Australia. I will be revamping my political page at some stage. That's just a time putting that all together. But Fair Business Australia for now. Reach out to me. I do read a lot of the messages that come through. And for any business owners, I would love to get you into our Connector networking group that's launching in January. It's only $27 a month just to cover the admin. And you'll get weekly networking, coffee, all of these different things to help you run your business and to not feel lonely, because business is lonely, and we're going to help you to overcome loneliness in 2024 by putting you around people who actually want to talk about systems and business and all those lovely things.
That's great. Awesome. Well, it sounds like a fantastic service. Well, thank you again for coming on the show. Thank you, Adam. Thank you for everyone who's watched and contributed tonight in the comments and everything. Please share this far and wide. We say it all the time, but it does really help getting this out there. Adam and I are not the best in the social media department, so if you can help us out, it would be much appreciated. And please join us for another episode next week. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you next time. Thank you.
Yeah.